Idag fokuserar vi väldigt mycket på bolag som är tillverkande och som ligger i distribution. Och vi ser att vi jobbar ganska ofta med bolag som er själva som hjälper bolaget att välja rätt system. Och vi ser också att vi jobbar väldigt mycket med bolag som har ett fokus på vad vi kallar för multi-entity, multi-legislation krav. Så de är i flera länder, de har ganska komplexa processer och så vidare. Och den här är faktiskt en styrka av X3. Så Fredrik, om du kan prata lite om storleken av kunder som vi jobbar med i Sverige, det skulle bli jättebra.
Ja, precis. Som jag sa tidigare så tycker vi att vår sweet spot eller lämpligheten både för systemstöd och Sage X3 är företag med en årsomsättning från ungefär 100 miljoner upp till 3 miljarder. Det kan variera både uppåt och neråt. Det kan ju vara naturligtvis företag med en snabb tillväxtstrategi som är mindre än sådär och så vidare. Vi har också inte varit extremt kräsna i introduktionen, utan då har vi snällt fått försöka sälja till de kunder som vi lyckas sälja till, om man säger så. Men det är ju helt riktigt att det handlar om logistik och materialförflyttning, tid och platsnytta för produkter. Projektmodulen är någonting som utvecklats inom Sage väldigt mycket. Projekt för produktutveckling skulle jag vilja säga att det handlar om. Där det krävs flera företag med ICT och Master Data Management problematik. Många lokaliseringar och internationell handel är ju intressant för oss. Anpassningsbarheten var ju naturligtvis ett urvalskriterie för oss som gamla GIS-partner. Och ja, det kan man väl säga. Om man översätter det till anställda då, så handlar det ungefär om kanske 50-talet anställda upp till 2000 anställda. Vi har också grävt lite djupare på senare tid och gjort en ansats rörande dels att det finns en potential i Skandinavien för kemi, läkemedel och livsmedelsproducenter. Plus att core-funktionaliteten i Sage X3 är lämpligt för det med versionshantering, recept, varianthantering, process, tillverkningsstöd och så vidare. Ja, spårbarheten och sådär.
En grej som är riktigt att förstå med X3 är att vi kan jobba med olika typer av produkter. Som sagt, som Fredrik sa, om den kräver spårbarhet, om den är tillämpligt för att den ska flyttas över land eller kan inte sättas på en flygplan eller någonting sådär. Och den här kombinationen av variabler på en produkt ger oss en väldigt vi kan stödja väldigt många olika scenarion. Och det är någonting som uppskattas väldigt mycket av våra kunder. Vi har sett att vi har börjat vinna väldigt mycket inom kemi och livsmedelsföretag. Vi har nyligen haft stor succé i den områden genom att både utveckla systemet lite mer och lägga till flera funktioner i den områden, men även med resurser och en stor investering i hur vi kommer ut med produkten. Så vår go-to-market-modell är väldigt fokuserad på livsmedelsföretag, kemiföretag och de företag som jobbar lite med en blandning av diskret tillverkning och även processtillverkning. Så vi har till exempel haft stor succé i olika länder med produkten eftersom den är så flexibel att man kan bygga industrivertikaler på den som en lokal partner. Så till exempel systemstöd kan ta produkten och bygger ut den både med lokalspråk, lokaliseringsmöjligheter och även att kunna bygga sin egen IP så att de kan lägga den runt om X3 och ge mer värde till kunder. Och det är någonting som våra kunder verkligen uppskattar. Så vi har till exempel industrivertikaliseringar för automotive i Frankrike, där vi har Peugeot Citroën Automotive, PSA, som jobbar med X3 och använder den för tillverkning inom deras tillverkningsföretag. Så det är partners som har gjort den här typen av arbete med produkten. Things like catch weight and random weight, where you and also deconstruction. We actually have a partner that's built that end-to-end process, and they are very focused on meat packing, etc., etc. Now, their solution is localized for the globe, and Systemstöd can actually pick it up and just drop it in a location. It comes with out-of-the-box expert services. They have they've got a team of experts located around the world to support projects, and they focus on the entire agriculture process. So growing it, decompositioning of that. So the catch weight, the random weight. They even have weighing scales, and grading. So before the fish actually comes in, so if you have a bunch of salmon that you've caught, or tuna, what have you, and you want to grade it before it even comes into your premises, they have the ability to do that. Now, they're experts in the space, so they've got their own bespoke ERP with 450 customers, but they're moving their customers onto Sage X3. And right now, they've got 76 customers on this in Spain, a further 25 in Africa. So we have the world's largest tea grower, for example, using that capability. They've deployed into Kenya, South Africa, Sri Lanka. They're just about to deploy into the US, and they're using this capability. But again, so what will happen is they'll pick the tea leaves and they'll bring the tea bushes, and they can handle things like co-products and byproducts. So you'll get the leaves coming off to make the actual tea, but then you also create the powder, which is used in the tea bag. So it's really interesting how they're using that. So yes, we do have detailed capabilities around that, which is really interesting, because if you look at what we do for process manufacturing, we're not true continuous process, but we do have the ability to do continuous reporting, and we're in the process of building in continuous sampling. So if you think about a process, you want to do continuous sampling throughout that process. So we're building in those capabilities right now. We're not done with that yet. That's coming later this year, but that is something that we're working on. We have also, for example, built out pretty strong capabilities around production and quality control. So that's already in the application. The discrete process looks fairly similar, but what we've done around discrete manufacturing is really focus in on looking at project-based manufacturing. So we've built that out as an area, and we've also got things for like multi-level bills of materials. We have the ability to do engineering bills, prototypes, and we've built that out over the last couple of years. The other thing that we have throughout the system, which is really strong, is product costing and the accounting that goes with that. So there's a huge amount of product costing and accounting there. From a distribution perspective, everything that you'd expect in terms of forecasting and inventory management, etc. And then we go through some of the other industries, but I did want to kind of talk about the agriculture side of it. So we sell this as if it's native capability, because actually I can't tell where the add-on begins and X3 ends. This is the beauty of the product. It's actually built into the product. We give them IP. They use our IP to build their add-on. So on the farm side, there's things like yield management, so yield planning, how much, if it rains this much, how much do I expect to get from the yield? There's farm management. So this is the equipment of the management of the equipment, everything that goes along with that. And then of course as part of the farm management, you have things like the catch weight, the grading, all of that sort of stuff. So really important capabilities that we've seen in the product. As part of X3, we support multiple warehouse locations, and we've built out capabilities around that space so that we have very comprehensive multi-site capabilities. And within the warehouses, you can have different areas, you can have different locations within those different areas. So it's a pretty complex tree structure if you were to lay it out that way. So group company, different locations and sites. Then within the different sites, you have the different warehouses. Within the different warehouses, you can have different warehouse locations. So that entire structure is represented in the application. One of the things that we've been working on with one of our partners who's got very strong presence in that space, in the alcohol distribution space actually, is they're also quite strong in cannabis, because in cannabis you need to have those similar sorts of capabilities. So in the extensions that have been built for cannabis that we've built, we actually have quite a lot of that sort of stuff, because we also need to manage how much they produce. So they can't have overproduction. Underproduction is allowed, but overproduction will lead to fines and things like that. So do they have more capacity sitting in the warehouse than they're supposed to? Are they allowed to ship from that warehouse into that location? No, they're not. So those sorts of controls are there. So controlled sourcing, controlled distribution is in the application. But that's, again, what we're doing with our partners is they will help us to build out the industry IP, and then we actually acquire that IP and roll it into the application and work with them as part of that. So this is how we've been able to grow out that way, and it's a strategy that's worked pretty well for us, and we're looking to continue going forward. These are a couple of awards that we've actually just gotten. Why I like these awards is they're not an analyst giving us an award or an industry expert giving us an award. They're actually based on customers giving feedback and giving testimonials on what the product does. So Crow's Desk is a fairly large organization focused primarily on English-speaking markets, but they've awarded us a leader award, and again, Infotech Research Group, they use their software reviews platform, and we actually came in as a gold medalist. So these are kind of fresh, hot off of the press. So really excited about these, because they show that customers are starting to see the value in the product, and they get a lot of value from the product, which is great. And we've done a lot of work around customer experiences, making sure that we provide innovation constantly. So we've changed our roadmap cadence, moving from an 18-month cadence to a quarterly cadence. And again, we're able to deliver capability into the market more quickly, which has really resonated with customers. You know what? We don't expect customers to take on every quarterly release. And what we've done is we've made it so that it's significantly easier for them to consume those releases. So I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Actually, I'll talk to you about what we've done around that area. But I did want to talk about this. This is really important. So we ran a study, or Forrester ran a study around total economic impact, which was designed to allow us to see what the impact of X3 was. And what we came out with was a number of different things. So we ended up with 4 different scenarios, one being around process manufacturing, one being around distribution, one being around discrete manufacturing, one being around general business. What's interesting is we ended up with a an ROI of roughly 213% if you average it out across those 4 different areas, and a TCO of 6 months. So, which is a pretty good return on investment. These are just some examples of some of the quantified benefits that you see. Again, these have been aggregated. So for manufacturing, our customers saw in excess of $335,000 in savings. So in today's day and age, that's a pretty good example of recurring savings going forward. So we're really excited about these things, and we have case studies for all of these things that show what these look like. Now, again, this is just an example of some of the work that we've been doing. We've really been focusing on making the application easier to implement, making sure that we can give customers value from the application significantly quicker. So we've invested in out-of-the-box data and analytics. We've invested in out-of-the-box capabilities, fast start programs, which are accelerated implementation methodologies, which allow customers to get up and running. But it's not about putting them into a box and saying, if your business doesn't fit this, it's going to cost you millions of dollars to build out of that box. It's about saying, here's the basic capabilities up and running, then you can go from there. So it's almost like it's not a fixed price implementation. It is an accelerated implementation program that will have milestones linked to it. So the customer can choose, we want to do milestone 1 and 2, but we don't want to go to 3 right now. We want to take 6 months, get to know the software, etc. So it's not locking a customer into a guaranteed spend or anything like that, which has, again, been really, really popular with our customers, because we're not kind of forcing them to go down the route of some of these other programs where it's you pay this much regardless of what happens, and if you want to do anything, you want to move the block that much outside of the box, that's another $150,000 or 2 million Swedish crowns. That's not what we're looking for, and that's been a big part of what we've been trying to do. Now, we're aware of the fact that everybody's talking about Industry 4.0 and IoT and all of those sorts of things. So I'll give you a couple of examples of customers that we have. One of our customers is growing significantly at the moment, and they're actually a company called Softbox. They're the most famous company you've never heard of, and my God, are they important at this stage. So Softbox are a company that's actually based down the road from me in Oxford. They manufacture special types of transport boxes for medical samples. So they're working very closely with AstraZeneca, with Pfizer, with all of the research universities right now on transporting all of these nasty viruses around and trying to find cures for the terrible diseases that the terrible disease that we're experiencing right now. Now, what's interesting about these guys is they used to make these boxes and then sell them to the vendors. And what they've done since is they've invested significantly in IoT technology. And what they do now is they use capabilities in X3 around lease contracts and servicing to actually rent these to their customers. And they use IoT sensors to do things like monitor the ambient temperature in the box, monitor coolant levels, and they feed that information back into X3. And that will drive like service jobs and things like that. They use the IoT sensors feeding data into X3 to present reports back to their customers about how many times has the lid been opened and closed. Is there contaminants that have been broken inside the box? You would like to know that nowadays, especially. And they're doing a lot of work in this area and growing significantly as a result of this. So what they've been able to do is they've now started to invest in much better materials to make the boxes and much better coolants that they're putting into the boxes, because they're able to see the effectiveness of doing that by pulling the data into X3 through IoT sensors, using X3's KPIs and analytics to then make value judgments around that. But they're not the only one. There's a company called Ermiwa. They're a subsidiary of the French National Rail Service. And what they're actually specialized in is renting administration and maintenance of specialized rail cars for transport. And these rail cars go all over the world. They go everywhere around the world. And much like Softbox, what they've done is they've transitioned their model from a sales model to a renting or leasing model. And they've added IoT sensors and fed that information back into X3 so that they can track how many miles it's traveled or how many kilometers, what's the shape of the brakes, how many times have the brakes been applied, has there been any jarring on the cars, because if the cars jar too much, it can damage them and things like that. So it's really interesting to see our customers doing this. One of our customers is in the fruit space. They own farms, but they also distribute fruit around the globe, and they're called Jupiter Marketing. Now, they used to just be a broker, so they would buy fruit from here and sell it over there. So they were a wholesale broker. What they've done now is they've got their own farms. So they've bought 17 farms in South Africa, 12 farms in the UAE. They've got farms in Morocco and Algeria and a couple of other places. And they're now growing fruit. And they've got a grape called the Ara-15. I was fascinated about this. Most grapes, when you have it's a patented trademark grape called the Ara-15. Now, it's designed specifically for children and for fruit salads. So unlike most grapes, when you peel the skin off, it's quite sour and so these grapes are designed to be sweet for the children. It amazed me. Now, we've been working with these guys on a blockchain project. So what we can do is using our blockchain engine in X3, we can and Hyperledger and things like that. So we're working with the Amazon Hyperledger. We can scan a piece of fruit, scan a QR code on the piece of fruit, and see where's it come from, what were the pesticide levels in that region, when was it picked, what does the journey look like all the way through. Now, I don't know how many of you like apples, but the scary thing is when you pick up an apple in the store, it's actually 9 months old on average, which is really scary. Because it takes that long for the apples to kind of move where they need to and to ripen properly and to get to the point where they are. So on average, when you pick up an apple, it's at least 6 months old. So when you see fresh fruit, it's actually not really that fresh. So working with these guys has been really interesting, and building this blockchain capability into the product has helped us to be able to address some of those concerns that food and beverage manufacturers and chemical and pharmaceutical companies have as to demonstrating provenance of where the product comes from, what's gone into it, etc., etc. So that's something that we're building out at the moment. We've been piloting that with Jupiter for about a year now, building it out, rolling it out, and looking at it. And we're looking at using different kind of hyperledgers or blockchain ledgers to underpin this. So we've built all the connectors to, for example, the Amazon Hyperledger, but we're looking at building things with the IBM blockchain solution as well, which is more of a tier 1 solution. So right up there, it's like $150,000 a month subscription to that. But we have customers that work with Walmart and people like that need those, or IKEA or someone like that need those very stringent blockchain requirements. Now, there's an interesting study bit of work that we've been doing with something around machine learning. So there's a set of capabilities in Amazon called SageMaker. I promise we didn't ask them to name it that, but it's called SageMaker, and it's a really cool set of it's a really cool machine learning and AI capability that we've integrated. Again, we're doing this, we're not just building stuff and saying, here you go, and throwing it out into the market. We're actually building use cases with customers so that when we deliver it into the market, it's something that somebody can really put their hands on and use. What we've found in the industry is too many of these IoT initiatives or Industry 4.0 initiatives aren't plug and play. They're kind of like a massive investment. So we've been working with a couple of customers on the machine learning one, and Sage acquired a data science company about 3 years ago based out in Southern California, and they've been helping us with this. Now, what we've done here is one of our customers supplies the athletic tape, the stuff that you see everybody walking around, got like pink tape strapped to their elbows or to their knees or to their thighs, and I don't know if it's they're trying to look cool, or they're just old like me, and they're falling to pieces and they need tape to hold them together. But before COVID broke out, the customer that we were working with on one of the scenarios, they're in Southern California, and that's where the team that's been building this is. So it made sense. And what they're suppliers of this athletic tape, but they were finding out that they were running out of tape all the time. So they asked us to help them to solve this problem, why they were running out of tape. So we built this platform, and we built API connectors to go out and collect information from all of the athletic events and the calendars for those athletic events, and look at the medical reports that have come out of those events, the types of injuries, etc., and the athletes' demographics of who was there. And what we've been able to do is, working with these guys, of course, before COVID happened and California kind of shut down, was build them an algorithm that said, okay, there are these types of ultra events coming up, so you're going to need way more tape in these events, and there are more casual sporting events in that period, so you don't need to source as much tape. And it was really interesting testing that out, because we were quite worried that there wasn't going to be enough base data to actually build some of those algorithms out. But the work that we did was really interesting and proved to be quite successful. So that's something we're looking at, is how do we turn that into a use case scenario that can be used for food and beverage manufacturers or distributors, so that they can see when are we going to need more ice cream, or when are we going to need more coffee and tea and things like that. So we've actually kicked off a project with a company in the UK that makes ice, but it's industrial scale ice production. So like a giant lorry will pull up and they'll just push like a 10-ton block of ice into the back of the lorry. And again, that was driven by the fact that last year we actually had a summer in the UK, and we had like not just one day of 30 degrees, but we actually had like 3 weeks of over 30-degree temperatures. And this company produces pretty much all of the ice that's used around the UK, and they ran out. They literally ran out of ice. So they said to us, we'd like to kind of see what this looks like, and can we use some of the weather data to extrapolate what this is going to look like, because they've run out of ice the last 3 years in a row, because the ambient temperature in the UK has gone up, and we're actually having more days of summer than we've had before, which is really interesting. So it's kind of weird, because it seems to have happened when I moved to Sweden. I mean, from Sweden to the UK. So I don't know if there's a connection there. The other thing that we're working very hard on is this idea of the circular economy. So I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's about how do we design, produce, distribute, and make sure the products are completely designed to be recyclable and manageable and stuff like that. And we did some research. We surveyed about 700 customers in the discrete manufacturing space around the globe, and asked them what they're doing. And strangely enough, we saw that as a global average, it was around 75 to 79% of them had started to look at the circular economy. Of course, this was all driven to a large extent by brand image. They wanted to be seen as socially responsible and things like that. But more than half of them said that it's really difficult to do this, because customers don't necessarily, they ask for it, but they don't want to pay for it. So there's very limited ROI there. So one of our customers is a company called Pukka Pads, Pukka Pads. Now they make all of the notepads that you use. And yes, there are still people buying notepads. And they also make things like file binders and stuff like that. in Sweden, I know there's we always used to have these file binders. Everything had to go into files, and it had the 4 punch holes and stuff like that. So Pukka, in response to the market, have actually started to make vegan file binders and vegan notepads. So the reason why they're vegan is there's no animal that is used to make the glue or anything like that. And it really brings new meaning to I ate my homework or the dog ate my homework if you lose your homework, because they literally could eat your homework because it's non-toxic, it's completely environmentally friendly and things like that, which is really interesting. So we're sort of seeing this, but the reason why they did that is because they sell into some of these like niche suppliers like Harrods and some of the boutiques. They sell into Encore in Sweden and places like that. And it's kind of a way of them setting themselves apart from the competition. So the ROI is terrible, but from a brand image perspective, it's helped them to be quite successful. Now, the other thing that we're seeing is, and we used to talk about this a few years ago, it was all the rage like 5 or 6 years ago, servitization. Everybody was going to go do that. And everybody was going to have aftermarket capabilities. Now, the interesting thing is 50% of those discrete manufacturers that we spoke to are pursuing a strategy in this space. Process manufacturing, less so. You can't really go out and service the food. Be kind of interesting, but maybe it's less of an interest for them in terms of what they're doing. But certainly in discrete manufacturing, at least 50% of them were looking at this. Now, not surprisingly, they're doing this to capture more wallet share. They want more money. That's what everybody wants. They want more money. But of those 50%, at least 81% of them have implemented a circular economy strategy, which is really, really interesting. So why is this of importance? Well, this is really what is driving where we're taking our product. So we are focused on this idea of delivering continuous value to customers. And to help us focus in on that, we're really focusing in on product-centric organizations. We're not looking to deliver like outstanding capabilities for insurers or for audit companies or architects or anything like that. That's not our focus. Anybody that works with a product is at the core of what they do, whether it be food, whether it be chemicals, whether it be electronics, whether it be a widget or something like that. Those are the companies that we want to focus on. We don't want to go kind of shoot everywhere and kind of be everything to everybody. That's not what we want to be. Now, we're also cognizant and aware of the fact that we have this fantastic ecosystem, 400 plus partners around the world, over 1,300 consultants that are actively certified, carrying at least one or more certification, which is great. So we want to work closely with that ecosystem, but we also want to help our customers to access the power of the cloud. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're pushing everybody to the cloud, because although maybe after COVID, maybe that's where everybody will be going. We're certainly seeing that in some countries, but it's not about pushing everybody to the cloud. It's not saying you have to be in the cloud and what have you to get access to this capability. It's about delivering capabilities to them that they can consume as a service from the cloud. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing in that space. Now, when we talk about X3, think of it as one giant process. You can grow it, you can buy it, you can move it, you can make it, you can sell it, you can distribute it, and we even can service it. Now, we do have partners that are providing specific capabilities in certain areas like MES. We've got partners that are providing more advanced MES capabilities over what we can in X3. We've got some partners who've done some really intensive work around process manufacturing. So they've taken that to the next level. So one of our partners has built an add-on which is specific for glass foundries. So people making glass where they're just running a foundry all the time, and they've built an add-on for that. I didn't even realize that there were that many foundries, but there are quite a lot in Africa, for example. The grow side of it, that's very much led by partners at the moment. I mentioned the agriculture add-on, the cannabis stuff that we've been working on. And to give you an idea of the success that we're having as a result of that, in the last sort of 3 months, we've closed 36 cannabis deals, and that number is accelerating significantly. But what's interesting about these guys is they grow the cannabis, but then they create oils. So they're a food and beverage company as well. So it's they're a crossover industry. They're almost a horizontal vertical, if that makes sense, because they're a crossover industry. Because cannabis companies aren't just growing it; they're processing it, they're distributing it, they're delivering discrete products. So one of the company that I mentioned, Aurora, they actually went on an aggressive expansion, and they bought the greenhouse company. So the company that makes their greenhouses, they bought. They bought the company that makes the hydroponics. They bought their supply chain. They're buying brick and mortar retailers. They're setting up their own distribution hubs. So they're a complete ecosystem in themselves. They own the entire value chain, and that's because the product is of such high value, but also such high importance. Now, let's dive into this in a little bit more detail. Now, I won't walk you through all of these capabilities, but if you look at something like buy, we have global partners that we work with. So one of them is somebody like Sage Inventory Advisor, which allows us to do in-depth analysis of our inventory and do planning and forecasting that will drive procurement. But we also work with Palette in Sweden on the AP automation side of things. So all the invoices coming in and things like that. And I'm sure Frederick, you can talk a little bit more about the integration with Palette.
Yeah, of course, we have made an integration between Sage X3 and Palette invoices, and we are looking into have further cooperation with other suppliers of similar functionality, because it's like a Scandinavian best of breed solution for supplier invoice handling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frederick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what this tries to lay out is just some of the capabilities that we have. So things like RFQs, purchase requests. We have a very strong approbation process. So the ability to approve PO requests, the ability to approve PO receipts, invoices, etc. So the approbation process is really strong. The other thing that we have is call-offs against contracts and things like that. Now, if you look at the movement side of things, so the warehousing side of things, data links is an interesting one. So within X3, we actually have our own automated data collection capabilities. So handheld scanners and things like that, and we're actually building that out and doing more work in that space. But what data links have done is they provide additional capabilities. So really advanced warehousing capabilities on top of that. So things like tote management, tote tracking, etc., etc. But all of the sort of stuff that you would expect. On the move side, we do have the assembly and disassembly orders. So this is where we're able to disassemble things as they come in. If we look at something like the sell and distribute side of things, we're partnered with Unifound, who are helping us with some of the more comprehensive processes on that side. And then we've got partnerships with other providers around EDI. So we have EDI capabilities within the system, but we also partner with EDI brokers around the globe to make it easier for our customers to get value from that. We also have, I know that Frederick's team have got their own e-commerce solution built on Orchard, which is a really strong solution. But for those customers who want other types of solutions, we partner with Magento. So we have a Magento offering, and we have a pre-built integration to Magento using Dalboomi. But we've also got integrations to Shopify and other sorts of commerce solutions. And then if we look at some of the industry stuff, these are all global add-ons that have been built globally. So Nextech is our partner that is focused on cannabis, they have a practice of 150 consultants just focused on cannabis and food and beverage. And they've built out seed to sale capabilities that are specifically designed for that. Eritmos is the agriculture company. But what's interesting about all of these guys is all of their IP is built on X3. It's built into X3 because we give them access to the source code. So they are an extended development arm for us. So when we do development work, we partner very closely with these guys because they are industry experts. So a little bit of an interesting one about RKL. They work with a company called SK Foods. Now, most people don't know this, but SK Foods is the largest supplier to Starbucks globally. You would have thought the coffee beans would have been the largest thing that they buy, but they actually own their own coffee plantations. So SK Foods produce, on average, 10 million sandwiches per day for Starbucks. And they produce those out of manufacturing plants in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, in Canada, and a few other places spread around the world. And they use X3 to manage that entire process and distribution process. So they have massive volumes going through their application every day in terms of throughput. And it's seasonal changes. So the recipes change seasonally, but they also change on a daily basis. So they look at what's proving to be most popular in a specific region, and they will adjust the orders based on the popularity of that. So they have very, very comprehensive forecasts and recipe adjustments. So they adjust the recipes literally on a daily basis to make sure that they have the right demand. And they're running at least three shifts, and each shift will work on different versions of the recipes, which is really interesting. So they'll have a wrap in the morning, which has got an egg in it, and in the afternoon, it's got avocado. So it's got the base ingredients of bacon, but then it'll change from egg and bacon to egg and avocado. And in the afternoon, it may be like a sweet bacon type thing, because we know the Americans love to eat really sweet things. So like a bacon and candy, I don't know. But there are some really strange things out there. So from an X3 perspective, we're continually maintaining and enhancing the product. And our investment is really focused around kind of 6 areas. Now I'm going to start on the green ones, and then I'll touch on the yellow ones. Now, we're, of course, maintaining our technology stack and extending this where required. And that's really important, just to maintain compliance and things like that. Same thing on the localization side, but we're doing a lot of work on localization to make the product easier for our partners to manage, to give us more comprehensive coverage. From a industry focused capabilities, we're developing new modules and add-on functionality to support these businesses all the time. And things like the cannabis stuff, things like the work that we're doing around advanced formulations, recipe management, so we can track product viscosity, etc., are all being enhanced as part of the product. We're also delivering a lot of enhancements to existing functionality. The best way that I can describe X3 is it's a little bit, do you remember MacGyver? We all remember MacGyver, the guy who had the Swiss Army knife that could do anything. That's a little bit like X3. You can kind of do anything with X3, but what we're trying to do is make it easier for people to do anything with X3. But really, again, try and target that so that we take the Swiss Army knife, and if we build a spoon or a spork into the Swiss Army knife, it's a spork designed to eat that specific type of food. You know what I mean? It's about targeting where we're investing in the product. Now, we are working very hard on improving the patching upgrade process, new capabilities and new tooling around making the releases easier for our customers to consume.